Greetings. Thank you for coming back. It's Eric Bakker. I'm going to talk about fermented and cultured foods today. You know, what these foods are and, some of my favorites, and then how I incorporate them into diets of patients, that I regularly see. Now, this is an area I've been working in for a long time. I started consuming sauerkraut probably, 50 years ago now, a long time ago. So, being from Dutch descent, European descent, my grandmother made sauerkraut up, like a lot of German and Dutch women made up. These weren't fads back then. These were a normal part of a healthy diet. But today, sauerkraut's become a fad, and I wonder how long the fad's going to last. Maybe a little bit like macrame and, the 70s and orange Formica bench tops and, all these beards that guys are growing now. It's just all passing fads. Hopefully, this is a fad that's going to stay. These are exceptional foods to eat in your diet and well worth incorporating if you're not used to them. It's great to start a person when they're young on sauerkraut, not when they're 45 or 50, in some cafe or some fad kind of thing. So if you've got children, start them young. Get them into yogurt when they're really young. Get them into sour yogurt, not some kind of yogurt with lots of fruit in there and artificial sweetness. Those aren't really foods, they're just junk. So let's start with whey. So whey is something that happens when, it's a liquid. It's the curds in the whey. So when you put lemon, for example, in milk, you're going to get a separation there. When you boil the milk, you put some lemon in there, you're going to get a separation. That's exactly what a guy called Hippocrates did about 400 years BC. He got a hold of some cow's milk and he boiled it. And he chucked some fig juice in there and some vinegar that he made up. And he used to give this tangy drink to his students and to people that he was treating. And he found some really interesting effects with that really helped improve their gut and their digestive problems. Now, Hippocrates didn't really have fancy labs and microscopes and, Google to play around with. But what he did have, he had a few brain cells. That's what he had. Probably more brain cells than most doctors have today. Hippocrates observed people. He would give things to people and watch what would happen. This is observation. Today, unfortunately, a lot of that observation is sadly lacking when it comes to medicine because it's become such a regulated, controlled, tight monster. That when doctors try and make these suggestions, they're often ridiculed by their peers. I'd like you to look at a product called Molkosan. I'm holding this up now, Molkosan. So I'll hold that for a few seconds. So while you're typing that into Google right now, Molkosan. Yeah, Molkosan was created by a guy, where's my book, that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. This guy here, Dr. Alfred Vogel. So Dr. Vogel, a very famous naturopath, 1952, he designed this stuff called Molkosan. Now he brought whey drinks really to the attention of the Western world. So I would sort of see Vogel as a modern day Hippocrates, using a lot of Swiss knowledge, empirical observation built up by Swiss naturopaths and herbalists for hundreds of years. This guy actually wrote it in a book. So that Nature Doctor is a fantastic book. It's one of the best books you can get in terms of natural health, common sense education. Most of my work in my clinic is based on this guy's work. Now you know the secret. Vogel practiced for a long, long time and saw many, many people, all without Google, all without internet. Okay, Google didn't exist back then. So guys like Vogel had to really understand. They had to treat people, talk to other doctors in the valleys where they practiced to work out what worked and what didn't work. And eventually they worked out the right kind of treatment for many kind of health problems. And whey is brilliant. It's very, very high in lactic acid. It's a little bit of a sour kind of a drink. Molkosan's brilliant also to put on psoriasis or eczema. You can treat your skin topically with it because the lactic acid really feeds up the bacteria on the skin. You can use it as a vaginal douche. It can be used for balanitis or washing, a men's private parts in. It's a fantastic kind of a product to use. It's one of my favorites, is Molkosan. Or just whey. You can actually make up whey yourself at home. Go to Google and look it up. Apple cider vinegar. Again, one of my favorites. A guy called Bragg. You might have heard of Bragg cider vinegar. Bragg is a remarkable guy. I'd like you to go to YouTube and look at Bragg's video. Okay, so put Bragg in there and just look at the video on it. Remarkable person. Bragg talked about cider vinegar and really brought this to the public's attention. Today, unfortunately, a lot of people get confused. They look at conventional, industrial, commercial white vinegar you can buy in the shop, which is really junk. This is pasteurized, homogenized, it's been boiled and heated up. It's like table salt. They take it up probably to 1300 degrees, they destroy it. Then they put it in a container and say, here, this is for you, this is healthy. So it's junk. Stick with Bragg's. Bragg's is probably the best brand you can get with cider vinegar. In New Zealand, we've got cider vinegars that are very good too. These alkalize and cleanse the system. These have a tremendous effect on building good bacteria. They reduce the incidence of parasites in the body. Cider vinegar is excellent for people with arthritis too. In my opinion, it's one of the best things you can take to really get your gut into a high spec, especially useful during a Candida cleanse program. Now, some people get confused and worry about cider vinegar and say it's going to feed the yeast, but it doesn't do that. Right? It will not do that. It's a cleanser and an alkalizer. The third one is fermented soy foods. I wrote a lot about this in Candida Crusher. So if you haven't got a copy of my book, you might be able to read more about fermented soy foods if you go to yeastinfection.org. I wrote a whole lot of stuff about tempeh and natto and the different types of, cultured soy foods you can get. Don't fall for the nonsense that soy is toxic. It's complete crap. It is not toxic at all. It doesn't turn men into homosexuals. It doesn't create retardation in babies and things like this. Asians have been consuming soy for thousands of years in amounts far greater than the Westerners ever would eat. The fertility rates in a 2004 study showed fertility rates were not affected at all by soy. It didn't reduce a woman's ability to carry a child at all. Japan been consuming soy also for 2,000 years. There's not more gay people walking around or retarded people there because of soy. Smear campaigns abound, people. We were told the butter was toxic and to eat margarine. We knew that was crap. Same smear campaign got put out in the 80s and 90s. The dairy board started to notice that the $300 million soy sales turned to $4.2 billion literally 20 years later. So, of course they were worried. Campaign started. Eat soy. It's a great product. If it's non-GMO, I'm perfectly happy with it. But especially tempeh. Tempeh's been inoculated with a bacteria, bacillus. So by eating tempeh regularly, you're really benefiting, the small bowel and large bowel are really benefiting from this. They're exceptionally good foods to eat. So if you want to cut meat down in your diet, I'm all for tempeh. If it's made properly, it's one of the healthiest foods you can eat on the planet. But it's soy, so get your head around it and stop listening to all the parrot talk, okay? There are a lot of parrots out there on Google, okay? And you know what parrots do? They copy other people and they just say the same stuff time and again. So Google's full of parrots. Sauerkraut. Now here's an exceptionally good food to eat. If it's made properly, if it's properly fermented, but it's got to be made properly, because I have seen some people get kefir. So I'll talk about kefir later on. I have seen some people get yeasts and different types of unwanted bacterial strains in sauerkraut by not being sanitary. So if you're making kombucha, kefir, or sauerkraut at home, be particularly careful about hygiene. Sauerkraut is a fantastic food for many different conditions, but it needs to be incorporated very slowly into the diet. It can affect people with strong histamine responses. But if you're not that way inclined with your stomach, then you should be fine with sauerkraut. I recommend people start with a teaspoon a day and then gradually build up to a tablespoon a day, and then they're good to go with a small bowl, usually once per day. I like sauerkraut warmed up and I like it cold. I just eat it straight out the refrigerator. It's a great food. It's nice in salads. You'd be surprised what you can do with it. And it partners up with meat, would you believe it, really well. Yogurt is the last category. Now, this is again very contentious food with many people who have dairy allergies. I can't tolerate yogurt, unfortunately, for too long. I maybe have it 1 or 2 days, but then I get all phlegmed up. I get all mucousy from it. So sauerkraut's the one I prefer to have when it comes to, this type of food. You need to find out what one of these foods suits you the best. I've purposely left kefir out of here because I find kefir too problematic for many people who start on their journey of healing from candida. Too many people. I've recently also noticed that, unfortunately, let's see if I can find one. No, I haven't got it here. I've got a stool test report which I show people, and it's got Candida kefir on it. If you go to Wikipedia, you can actually look up Candida kefir, Kefyr, and yes, you can actually develop a candida from having kefir if it's not made properly. Kefir is one of the few ferments that I say is very contentious in that it can cause major aggravations in some people and major improvements in others. It's suspect. So in my opinion, you graduate to kefir once you've been successful with sauerkraut and these other, ferment foods first. Just be cautious of kefir. It's one of those dual-edged swords that can make you feel really good or really bad really quick. All right. Leave some comments below. Thanks for tuning in.